Premed Office hours for January 15th. It is mid-January already. It is crazy. Time flies when you're having fun, I suppose. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Medical School Headquarters, Mapped, host of the Pre-Mid Years podcast, and written some books and all of that fun stuff. I'm joined by the newest member of the Medical School HQ advising team, Carlos Tapia, former director of student affairs at Icon School of Medicine, former director of admissions at TCU. Hola, Carlos.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
How are you? Bien. ¿Y usted?
Yeah. Bien. I love speaking Spanish as much as possible. I've been told I have a really good accent when I want to, but anyway, that's what happens when you grow up in LA around all of my Spanish-speaking friends. You pick up on it when you're teased by being called rojo every day when you're growing up. I'm like, what does that mean? I don't even know, but I like how you rolled that R.
Let me roll my R.
I practice too. Rojo.
There you go.
Yes.
I live in Southern California and still can't speak.
Yeah.
All good.
All right. Maybe we'll do Spanish lessons for the team. That'll be fun.
That would be awesome.
Speaking of the other advisor here, living in Southern California, dodging those fires left and right. I'm glad you're safe right now.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Christine Crispin, former director of admissions at UC Irvine, AdCom member at HECMed of USC. How you doing, my friend?
I am dodging fires and smoke, and but doing well. We've been very fortunate.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's been devastating. For those who don't know, obviously all the fires in Southern California. We had fires where I live 3 years ago. Super similar. Just crazy winds one day.
Yeah.
The huge difference between your fires and our fires was ours were done in a day. Yours are just going and going and going.
Honestly, I got the alert today that we're 45. My fire.
Yeah.
Eaton is 45% contained, which is great. But we still have high winds through today.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. First big announcement that I want to make, and I'll throw a thing up here, is Medical School HQ is going to start MCAT tutoring and basic science tutoring and GRE tutoring and all kinds of fun stuff. So if you are someone who has taken the MCAT and has done well in the MCAT and thinks you can teach the MCAT, go to MCATbymshq.com and fill out the form. It's just a pretty simple Airtable form where you can kind of give some of your information. And in the next few weeks, as we start to explore this, we'll be in contact or not, depending. We'll let you know one way or another. We're like med school admissions. Maybe we'll ghost you until April, July 1st, whatever.
August.
Yeah. MCAT by MSHQ, super excited. Been working on this kind of behind the scenes for a little while, trying to figure out where to go with this. We've been talking to some great people who are running tutoring companies now, but have decided to go our own. There's been some stuff at Blueprint. I've been partnered with them for almost a decade, but there's been some stuff over there, which has led me to want to kind of separate from them. And as of yesterday, that is official. So here we are. MCAT.mshq.com. Go fill out that form. Would love to have you as a tutor. And then as you're exploring tutoring, send us a note and say you're exploring tutoring. And we don't have anything official on the website. We just launched a brand new website, but we don't have any official MCAT stuff up there yet, but it is coming. So no questions yet. For those of you who are here who don't know, we are a mostly admissions advising, soon to be a tutoring company as well, helping students get into medical school. So if you have questions about applying to medical school, leave your comments and we will answer them here on the show. Think of this as free pre-med advising. Carlos, as it is January 15th, we are starting to look at working on essays and getting ramped up for this next cycle to start. It's just a never-ending round of cycle after cycle after cycle. What do you think students who are planning on applying right now, or this coming cycle, what do you think they should be doing right now to get ready?
I think getting their ducks in a row, making sure that they feel confident that they're ready to apply. I think that's the biggest, for me, the biggest concern or push, right? Is it on the individual, because it is a lengthy process. This is not an easy process. It's going to take all your will and power and time to just initiate the process. And even beyond that, it's going to consume a lot of sort of your weekends in writing and prepping for interviews. And so you really have to be committed to this process. It's not something that somebody externally can pressure you to do, because it's going to show through in the application, especially if you're just not in it, you just have no interest in doing this at all. So I think that is the one thing. Are you ready to commit to the process? Are you ready to really put your best foot forward to do this? It's not easy, and it's not for everybody. And then after that, of course, there comes the, do you have all of your experiences? Start working on your personal statement, letters of recommendation, and all that fun stuff. But it's that personal push to make sure that you have it all ready to go. Without that, I think it will show through again in the application that you're just not ready for this process, or you're just not interested in medicine.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. That's part of going through this process and being a pre-med is coming to the conclusion that you don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Christine, there are lots of people who are at the end of their current cycle. They've applied and they haven't had any interview invites yet, no interviews. Or maybe those who have interviews have been waitlisted or rejected everywhere and they're not sitting on any acceptances. What can they do to decide, should I reapply this next cycle? Should I wait? How do I figure out my next steps?
So those are two, I would argue, distinct groups of people. So those who have applied with no interviews at this point in time, I definitely think you kind of go back, think about what Carlos just said, and kind of now it's time to start reassessing where you are, what your goals are, what you're going to do. I sincerely hope that along the way, over the last 8 months or whatever it's been since you started thinking about this application, you also have continued to build and work and add to things that you had been working on from the original application. Because I do think there are some realities that you should probably consider a thought about reapplying. You want to assess where your application is, maybe what you think potentially went wrong, talking to somebody else about what potentially went wrong. I met with someone very recently, and it was as simple as it just wasn't presented in the best possible light, but they had a lot of great things on their application. And
what does that mean, not in the best light?
There was zero reflection, to be perfectly honest, on their activities in terms of what they learned, what they gained, impact, anything. It was more of a narrative of a resume. And when you look at the fact that they had hundreds or more hours of all the things that we would want on an application, clinical research, community service, they had a solid academic profile, but there was zero reflection. The personal statement really didn't reflect why they wanted to go to medical school. I'm like, the good news is this is workable.
Yep.
The bad news is you're probably going to have to reapply.
Yeah.
And for those who are sitting with interviews that are on a wait list, now is not the time to give up, because there's lots of movement. The movement hasn't really even started on wait lists. That will come April, May, probably.
Yep.
That being said, I always think at this point in time, if you have no acceptances, you kind of have to start planting the potential seed of a reapplication. But those with interviews are not quite there yet.
Yeah. why does it matter, right? When you say the activities didn't have any reflection, know what I learned, what I gained, impact, why does that matter? A student who's sitting here with a 3.9 GPA and a 525 MCAT
Yeah.
is like, okay, it's a formatting thing. Why does it matter? I've obviously done all the things. I have the grades. I have the stats. What does it
Right.
matter?
In my opinion, so when I read an application in any capacity, I really do my best to read it from the lens of, am I voting on you to come to my school? Every single time I read activities, whether I'm prepping them, helping them prep to write the application, or I'm doing a post conversation, I'm reading you through the lens of an admissions committee member. Would I accept you into my program? And so when I look at activities, and I've always said, I've been very vocal about this, I make a lot of decisions based on activities. If I cannot assess what you learned from this experience, if I cannot understand what you gained and how this transformed you and you got something from it, and you're just telling me, I did this research and I did this technique and that technique and we studied this particular protein. To be perfectly honest, I could care less about that. What I want to know is, do you know how to play in a sandbox with others and play on a team and work with a team? What I want to know is, have you learned from failure? Research is fraught with failures. When you're thinking about talking to me about shadowing, okay, that's great that you shadowed 450 hours, but I would rather know that there was something that you learned from these collective shadowing experiences, that you understand the importance of a patient relationship. You understand how different physicians navigate patient relations. Whatever the learning is, I would much rather see that, because then I can assess the value and not the fact that you checked a box.
Yeah, I like that. The value of it to you.
Mhm.
All right. Awesome stuff. I've got some questions coming in. Questions about LORs. Nana here says, I'm a veteran applicant, combat medic. My school said 3 recommendation letters needed. Do I need more, or is 3 okay? We already got Nana second guessing these recommendations. They're like, okay, but if I give you more, is that better?
More is always better.
More is always better. Carlos, I was talking to someone the other day about this, and I said 3 is a very common number, right, for medical schools to want. But if a student is applying to 15 or 20 schools, they may need 6 different letters to satisfy the 3 at one school and the 3 at another school and the 3 at another school, right? So it's like, yes, 3, but not 3. How do you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it varies greatly, right, depending on programs. I think minimum of 3 is the basic minimum goal. Anything beyond that is a plus. To Dr. Gray's point, you might assign some letters to some programs, others to others. But the other question is making sure that you have 3 letters of recommendation. And this is assuming that you've asked letter writers and you know that they're going to get 3 letters for you. What happens in the event that somebody doesn't get the 3rd letter to you? I think you're scrambling. So it's always just best to over prepare for this process, especially with LORs, because you're probably one of many that are asking for letters of recommendation, especially in the undergrad world from professors. So more is better at this point. Make sure that they're written from the perspective to highlight your attributes and your skills and your abilities. So when you meet with your letter writers, make sure that you ask if they could write these letters from that perspective. We used to see letters back when I was on the admissions side that 3/4 of the letter would spend talking about how great this individual was and all of the research, right? Highlighting the professor's sort of awards and accomplishments. And then they would spend maybe a couple sentences talking about the applicant who was a great student in class. And that's not really a letter of recommendation that is in your best interest. So that's why you really have to meet with letter writers soon to make sure that 1, they can turn in letters in a timely fashion, and 2, they can write a well-written letter. The other thing that I've seen is letter writers telling applicants, you write the letter, I'll make the edits to the draft. I would stay away from that because at that point, you're just doing the work.
Yeah,
you're writing your own letter of recommendation. So
yeah, that happens too often these days. Just tell the letter writer, just go use ChatGPT. At least you're not doing the work. Ryan, hello, MSHQ team. First and foremost, thank you for all the work you guys do. You're an invaluable resource. Non-trad here working on my BS in emergency management directly applies to my current field as a firefighter. Thank you for being a firefighter. Again, Christine, thanks you.
Really, thank you for being a firefighter.
Looking to apply the cycle. 30, married, 3 kids. Chose this degree because most of it is online, and that works with my work schedule. Gives me ample credits to get my prereqs while still maintaining a full-time job. I guess I'm just nervous about applying with 57 credits in BCPM. Most of these are in person. Have maintained a 4.0 GPA. And studying to take my MCAT in April. Am I overthinking this, or should I look into taking more science courses before applying? It's interesting, Christine. I've never really thought about it from this angle that Ryan here is concerned of like, oh, you just don't have enough science credits, right? It's like, do you have enough of a trend? Do you have the prereqs? But if you got the prereqs, this is why we tell students, like, go major in Spanish.
Right.
As long as you do your prereqs, that's the goal. And then your MCAT kind of fills in a little bit of that picture too.
I mean, that's exactly, I wasn't sure where he was going with that, but yeah, I don't even know if I would ever have looked at how many science credit he has when I was looking at an application. I would have certainly looked at a trend. I would have looked at the overall GPA. I would have, one school I worked for had prerequisites, the other one didn't. So I would have assessed whether they had prerequisites or not.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, that's kind of where your MCAT does come into play. That's supposed to give the confidence that you understand the sciences. But if you majored in psych or theater or Spanish or insert whatever, you may not have the opportunity to get more than the prereq courses. So I think, Ryan, I think you're overthinking it.
Welcome to, I don't have my, I'm on a new computer, so my normal setup doesn't work. I have the OPC sticker.
Yeah.
Welcome to the OPC.
Yeah,
Carlos, have you seen the OPC? Oh, yeah, you know me. It's here, I'm gonna pull it up just so we all have it. We get a good visual. Give me 2 seconds. It's well worth the wait. We need a drum roll. All right, so here is that. Let me share my screen. Present, share screen, window, share, and now add to stage. All right, now get rid of this.
Oh.
It's a special club.
It's a special club. I'm the founding member. Yeah, this is just I don't know. It just came to me at one point. I'm like, oh, I could make it like those location stickers that people put on their car where they're from or where they've been on vacation. So there you go. Welcome to the OPC, Ryan. Carlos is like, oh, that's it. That was something more. Sorry to disappoint.
It's a sticker.
It's a sticker.
No, it's a club.
It's a club.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's a community. It is a lifestyle, actually.
Yeah, it never goes away either.
It's a sticker of a club of a lifestyle. Yvonne, I'm a non-trad 37-year-old comp sci community college. GPA was 2.0, 30 credit hours, including 2 Fs. University GPA graduation was a 3.6. Should I do a formal or do-it-yourself post-bac? Yvonne, I would say I don't have enough information there to properly guide you. You have to go into Mapped, put all of your information for free into Mapped. It'll give you kind of point by point, give us the ability to look kind of point by point, look at those trends overall and see what's going on. So not enough info there. Atul, dear MSHQ team, when is the best time to send a letter of intent to my top choice school? I've received a few acceptances and interviewed at my favorite school, which releases results last week of February. First of all, congratulations. That's awesome. Got some stuff to choose from. Carlos, any thoughts on best time to send the letter of intent, or should they just wait until the results come out?
if you're going to send one now. It's all about timing, right? If you know that the school is going to release information at the end of February and you really want to send one and there's really an intent there, I would send it now. I wouldn't wait until the week of and then expect that they read it as they're reviewing, making their final review. And letters of intent are really conveying to programs that you intend to matriculate it, giving the opportunity. So that's something that you really have to make sure that is included in the message and that you're sending it with the correct intention, right? That's what you're wanting to do if this is really your top choice. But yeah, send it now.
Yeah. With one big caveat, do they accept letters? So
oh, yeah.
Make sure.
Biggest.
The biggest. Our friend Vanity, who is in Application Academy, for people in the last cohort, will we be able to do month-by-month gig for the lingering questions of the current cycle? No, that's not something we do, but you do have access to the Facebook group. So you can go ask questions in the Facebook group where we hang out as well. So I guess that's your ability to continue to ask questions. And for those who are unaware, Application Academy for the next cohort starts next week. And you can only sign up January or start signing up now through January 31st for this first cohort of this year. It is, let me share that screen. It is share. So Application Academy is a group advising program that we have. Here's our schedule that is pretty locked in at this point. Mondays and Wednesdays, you can see varying times throughout the day. And we're either covering initially some Am I Ready type sessions, really making sure that you're ready to apply. If you sign up and you're not ready to apply, then we could just kick your subscription to Application Academy to the next cycle. Primary review. So during primary review, you can submit activity descriptions, parts of your personal statement, TMDSAS essays, MD-PhD essays, anything related to the primary application, like other impactful experiences, stuff like that. We review those as a group. And then you can see as the cycle goes on, it goes into secondary review. And then what this doesn't show is that this continues for another 21 weeks. This is actually only half of it. It goes through mid-October. And so we do a bunch of secondary review and then interview prep. And it's all of our amazing advice. Carlos and Christine are in there, as well as Scott, Dr. Wright, Dina, and Courtney giving their advice. So come check it out. It's the best value thing that we do to help students. So that is that. applicationacademy.com/preview. You see the little ticker down below. We actually have a session today. Carlos, you're in there with me today, aren't you?
Correct.
At 4 p.m. Eastern, where we'll be doing a primary review. So you get to see what it's like to kind of get a sense of whether or not you feel like you'll get something out of it. So come check it out.
Come by.
All right. Ryan says, I'm getting that as a bumper sticker. Skylar, I took my undergrad in a program which has intended to prepare undergrads for PhD programs in the basic sciences. I didn't plan to be a pre-med at the time. We were encouraged to take classes pass-fail to help us have more time for research. So I have a ton of P's on my transcript. My overall GPA is good, but I worry it will look bad to have all these P's. Do you think it would be a good idea for my advisor to explain this on behalf during a letter of recommendation? I wonder if it would look better coming from him rather than from me. Oh, Christine, I almost feel like this is going to be, does the school accept it or do they not? And are these prereqs? Right?
That was the thought that came to my mind.
Prereqs. Talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So if these are just courses that you've taken toward your degree that are not the prerequisites, the year of biology, year of chemistry, year of organic chemistry, biochemistry in particular. I don't know that they'll accept it as a pass fail outside of usually the only thing they accept pass fail has been COVID years, like 2021, 21, 22, maybe 21, 22, but I know for sure 2021. So I'm not even sure the letter from the advisor is going to help you. So you do want to assess whether the courses you've taken are prereqs or not. The other courses, to be perfectly frank, I'm not quite as concerned. I think you can explain that, the letter can explain that, the secondary answer sometimes can explain that, but the prereqs are important. You may actually have to retake and get a grade, because I think that's gonna be beneficial.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Good luck, Skylar. Tigres and Euphrates is applying August, too late for DO school, planning to study for the MCAT April through August/September. The question is, why do you need to wait to apply before you're taking the MCAT? That's the first question. You don't have to wait to apply. But historically, no, August is not too late for DO schools. And it's kind of late for MD schools. But yeah, DO school cycles tend to last a little bit longer. So go for it. Garrett, I've been a CNA for 3 years now. I have a chance to work as a scribe for a part-time job at home over the summer. Should I do it even though I won't get a lot of hours, or is my CNA work enough? Do you want to be a scribe? Yeah. Carlos, this kind of goes into the bucket of just collecting hours to collect hours. Like, students just feel like it's never enough. I need more. I need more. I need more. At what point do they go, I have enough? I yes, keep doing what you're doing, but it's enough. I don't need more.
Yeah. I got asked this question today during an advising meeting of like, what types of clinical experiences are seen better than others? And my response was, all clinical experiences are seen better than others, right? Like, it's the clinical exposure that they're trying to make sure that you have. Is healthcare, is medicine right for you? It's just going to depend on you. You've been a CNA for 3 years now. Switching to a scribe, is it going to do anything different other than the hours that you're going to accumulate in a different maybe setting? But also, to Dr. Gray's point, do you really want to be a scribe, or you're just doing it, right? Because this is now presented to me. I'm going to take this opportunity to showcase that I am flexible and adaptable, and I have this other experience. I would say in this case, I think your CNA work probably has provided a robust experience in the clinical setting. The scribe portion of this, or the new opportunity, is going to be left whether you really are going to enjoy doing it, and are you going to be able to speak strongly about that experience if you include it in your application. Just to do it to accumulate hours, not going to do much if you can't write about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Albert's here. Time for my plug in Application Academy. You won't regret it. Thanks, Albert. Albert was in Academy this past cycle. Albert, if you want to come on, we can bring you on and you can talk about Academy for a second if you'd be willing. Let's see. Jeremiah, struggling with getting clinical hours, which are lacking. How many hours do you recommend? I'm worried because I plan on retaking the MCAT 511 since I have a 3.3 GPA, strong upward trend last 70 credits.
There's a whole lot in there.
There's a whole lot in there. Let's start with retaking the MCAT. Christine, does the MCAT offset a GPA?
In my opinion, no, it never has. I mean, you certainly, I guess my argument is if you're going to focus on something, I think a 511 is a good score. It's a very solid score. It's the national median for people who are actually going to medical school. So I don't know that a retake is needed, even with a 3.3 GPA. I think in general, the idea is they assess different things, right? If you're going to remediate something, I would remediate the GPA before I remediated the MCAT.
Yeah.
If, I'm not saying you have to do that to the GPA, but
no,
I'm
but
just saying
they have, right? Strong upward trend last 70 credits. Let's say that last 70 credits is a 3.8. Like,
right.
Done. you did that
You've done what
already.
you can do.
Yeah. But Christine, you and I met because I saw a video of you
UC Davis.
At UC Davis giving a talk about reapplicants, and the number one reason people are needing to reapply is lack of clinical experience. And so Jeremiah potentially is falling into a trap of worrying about stats, which he's already kind of proven himself,
right,
at the expense of clinical experience, which the far majority of us would say that's the thing that you need to be working on.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I mean, I argue, and I say this a lot, and I've ranted about this to various people in this call.
Here's your soapbox.
I personally think clinical experience is mission critical. You can go through with not a lot of research, minimal research. You can do a lot of things, but I don't think you can get away with not having clinical experience. So if you were telling us, and I totally believe you, that you had minimal clinical hours, they're lacking, then they're probably really lacking, in my opinion. And you need to do them. And I don't really love the hours because I feel like that's a box checking mentality, but it's definitely something that you need to build on. If you feel it's a lack, then it's definitely a lack. No doubt. So that's where you need to focus. Certainly not on retaking the MCAT at a 511 score.
Yep. Good luck, Jeremiah. All right. Let's see. I'm an NP, but my undergraduate degree, BSN, is from a foreign university. I'm planning to apply this upcoming cycle, and I have completed over 20 prereq credits. All right. I'll jump into this one because this one's super complicated. Medical schools in this country are super snobby about US/Canadian undergraduate degrees. And so I would be super proactive and reach out to all of the schools that you're interested in applying to and ask if they'll even look at you. A lot of medical schools in this country have a 90-hour minimum rule, 90 hours at a U.S. institution. There are a handful that have a 30-hour rule. And I know that because I knew someone who was an American citizen, but he was a dual citizen in England as well, in the UK. He went to the UK for college at one of the fancy colleges over there, and he came back and wanted to go to med school, and he realized he screwed himself because they wouldn't accept him. And so he found, I think, 6 or so schools that would accept 30 hours. And so he did post-bac work, got the minimum number of hours that he could get and applied. And he was like a 98th to 99th percentile MCATer, super bright kid. And now is in school at a great school, but it took some work to figure out where he could apply and what he needed to do to meet those requirements. So for this person, Dan Kuru, go ask some questions, because that's going to be it's going to be huge. And then a follow-up question here: how important is it to complete all of the prereqs? It's not typically. In your case, maybe a little bit more, but it's not typically. Good luck. Santiago, hello. Thank you for your time in these sessions. I'm studying at a liberal arts school in Florida firsthand, there's no GPA. Evaluations are delivered in a strong, satisfactory, or unsatisfactory. Also known as ABC, probably. Let me Google real quick. Do either of you have thoughts on this one?
It's going. I think. How do the application services evaluate this coursework? Because that's at the end of the day who's going to verify your academic history.
Yep.
But similar to the pass fail, right? It doesn't really calculate a GPA.
Yep. So I was going to pull up here. So AMCAS has a course classification sheet. And so if you come here, this is the grade conversion sheet or guide from the AAMC. And so what I would do for this is I would go, they have a bunch of different variations of what schools might be able to, how schools grade. And you go find the one that matches the best with your situation, and you go by that. And if you don't see something super specific, then just reach out to the AAMC, because at some point it has to be converted. Right. So my guess is that it's going to be so this is 2 passing grades, 1 passing grade.
I would assume a strong satisfactory is an A, satisfactory is a C, and unsat is an F.
Yeah, potentially. So this one is probably it, maybe.
I pass, fail.
Yeah, so maybe A, B, F. I don't know. But
yeah, that's kind of where I would land at.
Yeah. It's something. 3 passing letters, ABC. Yeah, so go check that out. See what you can find. Sometimes just being pointed in the right direction is enough for getting these people. D. Helene, mom of 1, 497 to 507 MCAT, 6 interview invites, 4 A's, declined 2 interviews, just got accepted to top choice MD school with an average MCAT of a 516. Thank you. My stats, I really believe my stats didn't necessarily get me in, but my narratives did, and it's all thanks to this channel and your wonderful advice. Thank you, everyone. See you in med school. That's fantastic.
That's the exact story that tells you stats are not all the end all be all that people like to think it is.
Yeah. And that specific, right? It's anecdotal, but we see it all the time. It's that specific reason why I don't recommend looking at the MSAR to pick schools, because when you go to the MSAR, it has a median MCAT of 516. Oh my gosh, I can't get in there. I only have a 507. No, just because their median's a 516 doesn't mean that they won't accept a 507. Just means half the class is below a 516. So
I tell students to look at the MSAR, but I tell them also to look at it and read what they talk about in terms of who they accept, in terms of, I look at it primarily for out-of-state residents issues, because I do think we have to factor in if they're going to even look at you because you live in one state, not another. But I never tell students to not choose a school based on just the MCAT. I think that's a fallacy, and this proves that is a fallacy.
Yep. Exactly. Love it. Congrats. D. Helene, did you do Application Academy or anything else with us? Or are you just using all of our free resources like they're intended to be used? Christian, I'm planning on retaking in April. As of right now, I have a 3.9 GPA. Oh, never mind. Here's the first part. I'm taking my MCAT next Friday. My highest score has been a 499 on the AAMC. My goal is 505, but I'm no longer able to reschedule my test. Should I void or just push these next couple days? Planning on retaking in April. As of right now, I have a 3.9 GPA. I believe everything else on my application is strong. Carlos, any moral support for students in this situation? All right. Unfortunately, the AAMC has some pretty strict reschedule kind of timelines, and Christian here is within that window. So he's got 2 options. He can go and take it and get it scored, and it counts as a take. He can go and take it and void it, and it counts as a take. Or he can just not show up, and it counts as a take. So it's going to count as a take either way, but schools will only be notified if he has it scored.
This is a decision that you have to make as an individual. I think if you can cram and you're able to feel confident that at least you're going to get, I would say 500. I mean, do it. If not, pick one of the two other options. But this is why it's important when studying for the MCAT to self-assess along the journey, right? So that you know, comparing timelines of when you can reschedule the test to where you're at performing on practice tests, so you can make that best determination of the time without saying, well, I'm going to wait till last minute right before my exam to do my final practice, and then my score's here, and now I feel like I'm stuck either way. I think it's just going to leave it up to you how comfortable you feel with what decision you're going to make. But the importance should have been on sort of planning ahead, making sure you keep track of timelines for rescheduling and all that stuff. I feel for you and wish you the best of luck. Next Friday? Yeah, next Friday.
Next Friday. Yeah, I was answering this question for someone else recently, and I said, I think one thing we don't talk a lot about, and I've been talking more about it recently, about the application cycle of just the emotional toll that applying to medical school and not getting in and being rejected and all that takes on someone. I think the same is true here. I think going into the test, even knowing that you're not going to score where you want to score, if you score it and you see that test, you see the score, it's much more real than scoring poorly on a practice test and going, okay, whatever, it's just a practice test. But then let's say you get a 499 on the real test. I think there's a psychological impact of that we don't talk enough about. And some people will be fine with that because they'll go, oh yeah, like I knew that. And other people will go, oh my gosh, this just reaffirms my incompetence or my dumbness or whatever, right? We all have our own stories that we beat ourselves up with. And so it's I think something that students need to take into account as well is like picture yourself, visualize yourself on the other end. If you end up scoring this, picture yourself on the other end with a 499. Are you going to be okay with that? Already knowing that you're going to retake it. So, big part of it. Carlos, why does TCU require anatomy and physiology as a prereq? It seems unique to the school. It is not unique. There are several schools, but is not common.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back of why, but at the time we were one of the few schools that required physiology, and people would ask, like, why not anatomy? A combination of anatomy and physiology will satisfy the requirement, I believe, unless they've changed it. But physiology was the main part of it, and I'm trying to remember why. We used to require genetics, and I think they removed that requirement as well. And that was a unique prereq, and everybody would scramble like, why are you the only school that's requiring genetics? And it was because they were sort of foreshadowing, right, what was coming next in science. Genetics was the thing, but I don't recall why. But
I would hazard a guess, having been in the curriculum game for 8-10 years, some of it has to do with what you're going to do while you're in medical school. I would argue that having some baseline knowledge of some of these topics, physiology and anatomy, all that stuff, I would hope it would make the launch and the teaching when you get into medical school a little bit better, because they'll know you'll have had the foundational knowledge they want you to have.
Yeah. I mean, could it be as simple as the professor that was hired to come in for the inaugural class at TCU, maybe their experience was one where they taught either basic anatomy phys at an undergraduate school, maybe they taught anatomy phys in a master's program, and they had their bias that they wanted students that already were exposed to this, and they didn't want to play with rookies. And so they're like, yeah, I want these students to take this as a prereq, so I'm not doing 101 stuff with them. Like it could be as simple as that.
Hmm.
So you just never know.
Yeah.
There's a
I
lot of
think it
egos
also
at play and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also had to do a lot with how their curriculum was structured because there was no lectures, and they needed, to your point, Christine, was you needed to have a foundation to come into this curriculum where it was self-guided group work, team-based learning, versus where you have a lecture, right? And they're going to the first 6 weeks. It's a very foundations lecture heavy course. So. But I don't exactly recall why. But I believe the anatomy and physiology combo satisfies the physiology requirement. But I would check with TCU to see if that's still true.
Yeah. Yeah, I know when Norda opened the DO school in Utah, they also had anatomy and physiology as a prereq, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's not common, but it's out there. All right, so let's see what other kind of great questions we have here. Yusuf, am I considered a reapplicant if I applied last cycle to one school for verification but did not apply to any other schools or complete the secondary for that school? I'm applying this upcoming cycle. This question comes up all the time, and I never really understand why it comes up because I don't know. Like, as far as I know, there's no question on the MCAS application that's like, are you a reapplicant? They ask you when you're like selecting the schools, have you applied here before? Do you guys know? Like, is there some secret question that I don't know about?
I think it's on secondary sometimes.
So potentially for secondaries, like, have you applied to medical school before? I think the answer is yes. I applied. In this,
I think it's an automatic trigger if the system detects maybe that your application has been processed and verified. I would assume that it's like you're a reapplicant, right? Like the system automatically triggers that, whether you apply to schools or not. Because I remember seeing applications received, not really moving the process, and then they would come back the next year and we would see the trigger reapplicant, and we would go back and look, and it's like, well, they have submitted an application, but they never really did anything.
Yeah, and that's probably on your school side system. It
was on the AMCAS. It was on the AMCAS application.
AMCAS does have an indication somewhere on there. I was trying to think about. It's been a minute since I've looked at an MCAS like paper application.
It'll say, have you applied before to the school list?
No, there was something else on there that was a reapplicant trigger, like a 1 or I think. I mean, I'm sure they're asking this question because of the psychological effect of if I've applied before, I don't have a chance to get in again.
Yes,
that's not
that's
necessarily
what
true.
I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
There potentially is a trigger somewhere on the application. I can't remember for sure if it's still there or not. There is potentially something, certainly in the school list. Have you applied here? Yes or no. So whatever school you applied to last cycle is going to be a yes. Everything else would be a no.
Yeah, I pulled it up. If you're reapplying to medical school, you're only considered a reapplicant to schools that receive your verified MCAS application from a previous application year.
Yep.
So it's if you.
Yeah, and I knew that definition, but again, my question, I guess, for Yusuf is, why does it matter? What is your goal of this question?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the bigger question here. Yeah. You can't change the past. So I think are you concerned about answering secondaries properly? I think it's going to depend on the secondary. I think if the secondary says, have you applied to medical school before? The answer is yes. If the secondary is, have you applied to our school before? And you haven't, then the answer is no. So it's a very lawyerish answer of like, it depends on the question, how it's asked.
Give them the answer they ask. Yeah,
exactly.
Answer the question they ask.
So with that, we'll wrap up here. Another Premed office hours in the books. Premed Application Academy, rather, starts next week. You can sign up through January 31st. Application Academy, if you are applying to medical school this cycle, Application Academy is the best value thing that we offer for students applying to medical school. You get the expert advising week to week to week for 42 weeks, I think it is. Don't quote me on that. 2 sessions a week with our expert advisors, a couple sessions a week with our amazing TAs who are in med school, who went through Application Academy. You can pay in full or pay over 4 installments, no interest on those installments. We don't play that game, but go check it out. If you're like, I still don't know what Application Academy is, today at 4 p.m. Eastern, Carlos and I will be doing a preview session of what it's like to review the primary application. So come hang out today, and we'll also have those recordings. So if you can't make it live, still come and sign up, and we'll send you the recording as well. So Carlos, Christine, thank you so much for being here. Christine, stay safe. Keep those fires away.
Thank you.
We'll have Ryan, the firefighter, come save you. That's what they do. All right. Everyone have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.